Chapter 9 is called It's Gone. What a wonderful mystery, Mother Mary Joseph said softly. Your light shines for all those who need us. Remember when we finished yesterday, they had hung the necklace out and it was shining a light out for the others in the water. Who are you? Sister Agnes said in a hushed voice. Angels? Annie laughed. No, we're tourists, she said. Faint voices came from across the dark waters. Hello? Anyone there? Yes, Annie called back from the window. This way. Jack and Annie worked with Sister Agnes and Mother Mary Joseph for the rest of the night. They all helped storm refugees find their way to the Ursuline Academy. They called out again and again, urging them to come toward the light. Jack and Annie helped people climb through the window. They led them to the auditorium. They gave them shoes and blankets. They were never too tired to lend a hand. Just before dawn, the water started going down. By the first light of morning, Jack saw that the floodwaters had flowed back out to sea, like water draining from a bathtub. The great Galveston hurricane was finally over. Sunlight streamed in. Morgan's tiny star sparkled in the window. The glass star was just a glass star again. Annie took the necklace down and put it around her neck. Oh no, said Jack, looking out the window. Not one building was left standing between the academy and the waterfront. The ground was covered with pools of muddy brown water and mounds of trash. Bells began to ring from the chapel. A new day is beginning, Mother Mary Joseph said. Yes, said Annie. Deadly storms are terrible, said Mother Mary Joseph, but they always end. Then you start over, and you look at the world a little differently. Yes, said Jack. He was suddenly so tired he couldn't think straight. You both must lie down and rest now, said the nun. You can sleep in my room. Thanks, said Annie, but we have to find our parents right away so that they'll know we're safe. Please, tell Rose, Lily, and Lucas goodbye for us. Of course, said the nun. I will. And thank Rose for taking good care of us, said Jack. Tell her not to worry. We know how to find our mom and dad. Are you certain you know where they are? The nun asked. Yes, we just have to get back to Avenue L near 25th Street, said Annie. Is that far from here? Jack asked Mother Mary Joseph. Oh, no, it's very close, she answered. Only 2 blocks north. Thanks, said Annie. Mother Mary Joseph looked worried. Are you positive you can find your parents? She asked. No question about it, Annie said. You'll come right back here if you don't find them, the nun said. Promise? Promise, said Jack and Annie together. Mother Mary Joseph led Jack and Annie down the stairs to the first level of the building. All the windows were broken, and all the doors had been blown away. The storm water had drained out, leaving muddy puddles on the stone floor. Mother Mary Joseph stopped in the open entranceway. Thank you for all your help and for your guiding light, she said. Thank you for helping us, said Annie. You remind me of a good friend of ours named Morgan. Me too, said Jack. Mother Mary Joseph smiled. Be careful, my friends. She bowed her head and then left them. Mother Mary Joseph was the hero Morgan wanted us to learn from, said Annie. Right, said Jack. He quoted from Morgan's rhyme. Learn from a hero who's humble and brave, who welcomes the hundreds arriving on waves. Look her up in the Texas book, said Annie. I'm afraid it's ruined, Jack said. He pulled off his knapsack and took out the Texas book. It was soaking wet. All the pages were stuck together. Oh, too bad, said Annie. Jack put the book back into his knapsack. Let's go, he said. Then he and Annie headed out of the Ursuline Academy. They took each other's hands and began slogging through the mud. As they walked up 25th Street, Jack looked straight ahead. He tried not to think about the destroyed city and the mound of wreckage. Instead, Jack kept his mind on home, on the Frog Creek Woods and their house and their mom and dad. He thought about Morgan Le Fay and Merlin and the magic treehouse. Soon, Jack and Annie turned onto Avenue L. All the houses had been torn apart on that street. Only a few walls and chimneys remained. "There's the fence," said Annie. They walked through the open gateway of the fence into the muddy yard. Annie gasped. "It's gone," she said. "I know," said Jack. "We were there with Rose when her house was destroyed." "No, not Rose's house," said Annie. "Our house. Our house is gone." She pointed to the remains of an oak tree. "That was our tree." The trunk was split in two and all the upper branches were gone. And so was the magic tree house. Chapter 10, Hurricane Heroes. Jack stared at the bare, broken tree. He couldn't believe it. "It's gone," he said in a whisper. "Wait," said Annie. "Is that it?" She pointed to a pile of muddy boards jammed against the iron fence. "Maybe," said Jack. "What's left of it?" He and Annie stepped over to the ruins of the treehouse. The floor was covered with brown mud. The roof was missing. 3 of the 4 walls had caved in. Jack started to lift one of the fallen walls. "Hold on," said Annie. She reached under the wall and pulled out their wet Pennsylvania book. "Oh, no, it's ruined too," said Jack. "Wait," said Annie. She carefully peeled apart some pages. "Here's the photo of the Frog Creek woods." She showed Jack the smeared page. "That's all we need. Get in the treehouse." "Are you crazy?" said Jack. "Just get in," said Annie. "There's no end to get into, Annie," said Jack. "Fine, then we'll just sit on the floor," said Annie. Holding the book, Annie sat down on the muddy floor. Jack sat beside her. He'd gotten so used to being wet and grimy that he didn't even think about the mud. Annie pointed at the smeared photo of Frog Creek. "I wish we could go there," she said. Nothing happened. Jack put his head in his hands. "I wish we could go there," Annie shouted. Jack felt the floor of the treehouse start to move. "Whoa," he said. He couldn't believe it. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. Tap, tap, tap. A breeze blew through the window of the treehouse. Rain splashed softly against the oak leaves. "We're home," Annie said. Jack looked around. As always, no time at all had passed in Frog Creek. Jack and Annie were wearing their own dry, comfortable clothes and shoes again. The canvas knapsack had changed back into Jack's backpack. The Pennsylvania book lay on the clean wooden floor, and it was in perfect shape. Best of all, the treehouse had a window again, and 4 walls and a roof. "I didn't know if the magic in the treehouse could fix the treehouse itself," whispered Jack. "I was pretty sure it could," said Annie. "Of course you were," said Jack, smiling. "Come on, let's hurry home." "Wait, I want to look in the Texas book one more time," said Annie. "It was ruined by water damage, remember?" said Jack. "Yep," said Annie, "but I'll bet it's fine now." Jack pulled their Texas book out of his backpack. The book was as good as new. "Yay," Annie said. "You were right," said Jack. He handed her the book. Annie looked in the index. "Here," she said. She turned to the right page. "Wow, listen to this," she read aloud. "Mother Mary Joseph was an outstanding hero of the great Galveston hurricane. When the storm hit the island, she and her community of nuns saved the lives of more than 1,000 storm refugees. Many people of Galveston called her..." Annie gasped and looked at Jack. "You won't believe this," she said. "What?" he said. "Listen," Annie read. "Many people of Galveston called her a shining light." "Oh, man," said Jack, smiling. Annie turned the page and read more. After the storm, 6,000 to 12,000 people were dead or missing. Buildings were destroyed, but the survivors of the Great Galveston Hurricane did not give up. In spite of their suffering, they immediately began rebuilding their homes and their lives. Ross would say that's what Texans do, said Jack. She was so proud to live in Texas, said Annie. She kept reading. Workers also built a high seawall to help keep the sea from ever destroying Galveston again. Most amazing of all, they pumped sand from the floor of the Gulf to raise the level of the whole city. Today, Galveston is one of the best protected cities on the Gulf Coast. That's really great, said Annie. She put the book on the floor. I'd like to go there again, in our time. Me too, said Jack. I'd like to meet the great-great-grandchildren of Rose and Lucas, said Annie. And Lily, said Jack. Annie smiled. But first, I'd like to go home and see Mom and Dad. Yep, said Jack. I'd like that more than anything in the world. Annie took off the star necklace and set it on top of the Texas book. Jack pulled on his backpack and climbed down the rope ladder. Annie followed. As they started through the woods, the rain gradually stopped falling. Streams of misty sunlight slanted through the trees. Birds sang loudly. Remember what Mother Mary Joseph told us, said Annie. Deadly storms are terrible, but they always end. Then you start over, said Jack, and you look at the world a little differently. Yeah, like ordinary things seem more special than before, said Annie. Like comfortable shoes, said Jack. Like birds, said Annie. Like sunlight, said Jack. Like family and friends, said Annie. Like family and friends, repeated Jack. Let's hurry. He and Annie took off running through the Frog Creek woods, heading for home. Now that's the end of our story, but I want to talk about that very last part when she says, ordinary things seem more special than before, after when they talked about the storm ending. I kind of feel like we're in a little bit of a storm right now, aren't we? With us being stuck at home and we can't go and see our friends. We can't see a lot of our family. We can't do many of the things that we normally do. So it's kind of like a little storm. But just remember those words. I like this. Ordinary things will seem more special when we get back to our regular activities, when we get back to school. Being with our friends is going to mean a lot more. Being able to see our family whenever we want. It's going to make those times so much more special. So just remember that. Storms do end, and this time will end also. We just have to be patient and wait. One other thing I want to show you is at the end of this story, they have another fact finder book. Can you see that? It's about Texas. So if you ever find the Magic Treehouse fact finder books, there is one about Texas that you might enjoy. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.